Former Iowa Hawkeyes coach Lisa Bluder had to give Caitlin Clark a timeout from practice due to her hot temper. Indiana Fever sensation Clark has led a women's basketball revolution and earned her team a playoff spot for the first time since 2016 in her rookie season. After impressing as one of the best college athletes of all time, the #1 WNBA draft pick stepped up in a big way to meet the standard at the professional level. However, that level of competition comes with some costs considering past coaches and teammates often felt Clark's wrath. And the 22-year-old herself has explained how her feisty side can come across in the wrong way at times. Speaking on the Fresh Talk with Jade Gyamfi podcast, Clark and her fellow guests discussed her time with the Iowa Hawkeyes and some of their best stories from their college days. That led the Fever star to admit, "Coach Bluder kicking me out," which came much to the surprise of fellow WNBA star Kate Martin. Clark explained how the Hawkeyes would often be divided into two teams during practice, and she ended up being sent away from the rest of the group when tempers flared. "Mine was only because I would beef with the blue squad," she continued. Clark allowed to return and participate in the next drill, though Bluder clearly felt her aggression was bubbling a little too high at the time. It clearly didn't have an adverse effect on the team's performance, however, as Iowa reached back-to-back NCAA championship games with her leading the charge. The Hawkeyes fell just short on each occasion, although that didn't prevent Clark from being named the best college player in the United States both years. Host Gyamfi empathized with Clark and confessed she too had been sent out of practice. "Only momentarily, though," she clarified. "I was allowed back in." There was speculation former Iowa stalwart Bluder could be picked to replace Christy Sides as Fever coach after the latter was sacked. However, Stephanie White was ultimately chosen to return to the Indiana helm in the hopes she can optimize Clark's obvious quality. The generational guard is preparing for her sophomore season in the WNBA and is looking to fire Indiana to the top after an underwhelming first-round exit in this year's playoffs. And being present for every training session is one way to boost those chances considerably. Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark was temporarily banished from practice by one former coach as her hot-headed nature got in the way. Basketball phenomenon Caitlin Clark has revealed how former Iowa Hawkeyes coach Lisa Bluder once put her on the naughty step. The WNBA superstar has excelled while promoting herself as a genuine and clean-cut talent, but even Clark's temper can boil over at times. After igniting a revolution in women's basketball, the Indiana Fever superstar clinched her team a playoff berth for the first time since 2016. The #1 draft pick made waves by transitioning effortlessly to the elite standard, with anticipation already building for what she'll bring in 2025. But Clark's intense drive has occasionally caused friction, with even her own coaches and teammates sometimes on the receiving end. And the 22-year-old has acknowledged her passion may sometimes be a little much. "Coach Bluder kicking me out," said the point guard while she and former teammates listed funny episodes from Iowa training on the Fresh Talk with Jade Gyamfi podcast via the Irish Star. Fellow guard Kate Martin, who now plays for the Las Vegas Aces, couldn't believe what she was hearing before Clark clarified. "Mine was only because I would beef with the blue squad," she added. The Hawkeyes would regularly divide up into two teams for intra-squad games, and even then Clark struggled to hold back in her bid for success. Any temporary frictions didn't seem to hinder the team as Iowa managed to reach the NCAA championship game 2 years in a row. They narrowly missed out on victory each time, but Clark's exceptional talent didn't go unnoticed as she was named the best college player in the nation both years. Host Gyamfi related to Clark's experience and said she too had been asked to step out of practice. "Only momentarily, though," she pointed out. "I was allowed back in." Iowa icon Bluder was linked with the vacant Fever coaching post following Christy Sides' dismissal, but Stephanie White has since been handed the reins. And the returning icon will have high hopes she can harness Clark's remarkable abilities to land the team's first title since 2012. As the prodigious guard gears up for her second WNBA season, Clark is determined to propel Indiana to greater heights after a disappointing first-round departure in this year's playoffs. However, she may have to monitor herself in training to get the best out of teammates, as well as herself. It turns out that Travis Kelce and Caitlin Clark might share more than just a love for Taylor Swift. Sure, both were in attendance for the Eras Tour concert in Indianapolis, but when they met, it wasn't just their Swiftie status that connected them. After revealing that the WNBA Rookie of the Year is a Swiftie through and through, Kelsey opened up about meeting Clark at the concert. Well, they're both from the Midwest. As Kelsey himself put it, it was fun. Got to meet Caitlin Clark there. She's awesome, she loves being out there in Indianapolis, says it's a fun city. We're both just two Midwesterners to the heart. Played high school ball, college ball, pro ball, all out here in the Midwest, and it was cool catching up with her. So, while they may be at the top of their respective games, Kelsey has been the tape for the 3x Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs, and CC 2024 row tie with the Indiana Fever. They share roots that trace back to the same heartland that helped shape them into the athletes they are today. Kelsey hails from Westlake, Ohio, while the WNBA star comes from Des Moines, Iowa. And they both went through the grind of high school, college, and pro ball out there. Through their journeys, they learned the values of hard work, perseverance, and humility that the Midwest is known for. Sports kind of run in their blood, literally, for CC, as her grandfather, Bob Nizzi, was a football coach, too. Talking about their pro careers, Kelsey has been a force in the NFL since 2013, with multiple Pro Bowls, 3 Super Bowls, and a reputation as one of the best tight ends in the game. As for Clark, she just had her first and unforgettable season, where she became the Rookie of the Year and landed 4th in MVP vote counting. Along with this, another connection has to be that Clark has also been a lifelong Chiefs fan. While Kelsey was rocking on the field, CC was cheering on her favorite team from afar. And what could be better than her fave sport and music icon dating each other? But she might be drawn to Taylor a little bit more, and even Travis agrees. On his New Heights podcast with his brother Jason, when the Chiefs tight spoke about Clark's Swiftie status, he wasn't joking around. She was into the show, for sure. She was there with her mom and a few friends, Kelsey recalled. She's a Swiftie, through and through. And truly, CC is not just a casual fan, she's all in when it comes to Swift. In fact, during her time at the Eras Tour, Clark was spamming her social like no one else. While the Fever's social media team was posting clips of her best highlights from her rookie season, Clark herself commented, "Busy at Eras Tour, thanks for tag though." Well, we don't blame her. For Taylor fans, seeing her live is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. While these stars find their connection, fans of football and basketball are dying for a collaboration. Let's see if they make it happen. The Iowa Hawkeyes may have filled the gaping hole left by Caitlin Clark as Lucy Olson shined on her debut following an off-season transfer from Villanova. Clark, 22, left for the WNBA earlier this year, going first overall to the Indiana Fever. She left the Hawkeyes with legendary status in college basketball, having become the leading scorer in the history of NCAA Division I basketball, as well as leading Iowa to back-to-back national championship games. The Indiana Fever star, 22, has been linked with the new Unrivaled 3x3 tournament beginning in 2025. Unrivaled is tentatively slated to begin on January 17 in Miami, Florida. The league has already signed the likes of Brianna Stewart and Paige Bookers. It also has a TV deal in place with TNT and will be held during the WNBA offseason. Clark has just competed her first season in the WNBA and helped to massively increase the popularity of women's basketball. She was pressed on possibly joining the new league in January, and Clark said, "We'll see. I don't know. Just taking it as it goes, and see if I want to play eventually." Clark's rival Angel Reese has already signed up to join Unrivaled. And her participation has led to claims she could quit the WNBA. "I'm looking forward to playing with the best athletes and really using the time to focus on my game and getting better too." If Clark also joins the league, she could continue her competitive rivalry with Reese. The star pair's rivalry has grown ever since their college days at Iowa and LSU. And the pair were the top rookies in the WNBA this season. It comes amid an ongoing feud between players and the WNBA over salary concerns. The players' union opted out of its collective bargaining agreement with the league as players are seeking higher salaries after the most successful season. That led to rumors suggesting Clark and other stars would join a strike asking for better wages. Clark is paid $76,535 a season while Reese earns $3,000 less. Nevertheless, the Iowa ace expressed her optimism about the WNBA's future while speaking at a recent Nike event. Former Iowa Hawkeyes mentor Lisa Bluder had her hands full when she had to remove Caitlin Clark from training. The reigning WNBA Rookie of the Year has taken women's basketball by storm and led the Indiana Fever to the playoffs the first time since 2016 during a stunning debut season. Fresh from her incredibly decorated college career, the WNBA #1 draft pick rose to the occasion and effortlessly transitioned to the fierce pro environment. And it's little wonder given the competitive fire she's had since her days playing with boys and older age groups as a child, but that ferocity comes with a price. And it seems previous coaches and colleagues have sometimes borne the brunt of Clark's character, as the 22-year-old opened up about how her passionate nature can sometimes be a burden. During a recent appearance on the Fresh Talk with Jay Gyamfi podcast, via the Irish Star, Clark and former teammates recounted funny memories from practice at Iowa. And fellow WNBA player Kate Martin was taken aback when Clark said, "Coach Bluder kicking me out." Clark recalled how players were often split into two sides for practice, noting how even teammates weren't safe from her competitive spirit. She admitted, "Mine was only because I would beef with the blue squad." Despite the incident, Clark was allowed to rejoin in the next drill after Bluder gave her some time to cool off. Clark has spoken of her relationship with Bluder and how her ex-college coach helped her reach new heights as an athlete. Her hot temper didn't hinder the team's success, however, as Iowa made it to consecutive NCAA championship games with Clark's leading the way. Although they didn't clinch the title, Clark's outstanding play earned her recognition as the nation's top college player for 2 years running. Echoing Clark's experience, host Gyamfi shared that she too had been sent out of practice by Bluder. Only momentarily, though, she noted, adding she too was permitted to return. There were widespread rumors that Bluder could reunite with Clark and take over as Fever coach following Christy Side's dismissal. However, Stephanie White was ultimately appointed to lead Indiana once again, with hopes she can harness Clark's exceptional talent. As Clark gears up for her second WNBA season, she's determined to help propel Indiana beyond their recent first-round playoff disappointment. Her commitment in training is a testament to her dedication in elevating the team's performance, even if it can be communicated in the wrong way at times. Paige Bueckers could get taken by the Chicago Sky in the WNBA draft to set up a tantalizing tandem with Angel Reese. The 2024 WNBA regular season had a fascinating storyline throughout as rivals Reese and Caitlin Clark went head-to-head for the Rookie of the Year award. Amid immense expectation, Clark clinched the award after posting 19.2 points, 5.7 rebounds, and a league-leading 8.4 assists per game as the Indiana Fever reached the playoffs. But Reese still enjoyed a stellar debut season in her own right. The 22-year-old was firmly in the race alongside Clark before her injury, finishing with 13.6 points and 13.1 rebounds across her rookie campaign. Looking ahead to her sophomore season, Reese has been outspoken about her willingness for talent to join her at the Sky either via free agency or the draft. For the 2025 WNBA draft, Chicago is in the running for the top picks as one of the 4 lottery teams. Bueckers is the presumed #1 overall pick given her glittering resume and superstar status. The WNBA draft lottery takes place on Sunday, November 17th, with the Sky looking to beat out the Dallas Wings, Washington Mystics, and Los Angeles Sparks. If the Sky gets the right to select Bueckers, the franchise will likely pair Reese with the 23-year-old Connecticut starlet. And the decision would undoubtedly be welcomed by Bueckers. As part of an interview with Sports Illustrated early this year, collegiate stars Juju Watkins and Cooper Flagg joined Bueckers in declaring who they thought should win the much-publicized Rookie of the Year award between Clark and Reese. Flagg went with Clark, Watkins went with Reese, but Bueckers suggested both were worthy. She said, "I mean, you can't go wrong with Angel Reese or Caitlin." After showing promise early in the 2024 WNBA season and positioning themselves to make the postseason, the Sky collapsed down the stretch, particularly after Reese suffered a season-ending wrist injury. Chicago eventually ended with a 13-27 record, which was ultimately 4 games worse than their record last season. The disappointing end of the season led to head coach Teresa Weatherspoon getting fired, with former Las Vegas Aces assistant Tyler Marsh taking the reins of the Sky. The hire delighted Reese, and she would undoubtedly love to link up with Bueckers in Chicago. With Reese and fellow rookie sensation Camila Cardozo serving as the key pillars of the Sky going forward, Marsh will look to develop his pair of bigs and help them reach their exciting potential. He has been praised for his player development skills, specifically his work with three-time MVP Angel Wilson. WNBA fever is in the air, and fans finally got to see Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese suit up as professionals for the first time Friday night as the brief league preseason begins. Clark and Reese were standouts in college, with the former breaking the NCAA Division I scoring record and the latter leading LSU to an NCAA title in 2023. Clark's Indiana Fever took on the Dallas Wings in Arlington, while Reese's Chicago Sky traveled to Minneapolis to play the Minnesota Lynx. Clark missed a potential game-tying three-pointer at the buzzer as the Fever lost to the Wings 79-76. Despite the loss, Clark was the team's leading scorer, finishing with 21 points on 6 of 15 from the field, including 5 three-pointers, along with 3 rebounds and 2 assists in 28 minutes. Reese also walked away from her preseason debut without a win as the Sky fell to the Lynx 81-92. Reese finished with 13 points and 9 rebounds in 24 minutes. The WNBA initially indicated, incorrectly as it turned out, that all its preseason games would be available on WNBA League Pass. Apologies. Our app is incorrectly showing that every preseason game, including CHI vs. Men, is available on League Pass. But you can watch IND vs. Dow tonight in a free preview of WNBA League Pass on the WNBA app. The WNBA posted to social media less than half an hour before tip-off. While the Fever game streamed for free on the WNBA app as advertised, the Sky vs. Lynx showdown was unavailable anywhere, officially, that is. A Lynx fan at the game came through in the clutch, hosting a live stream which garnered over 170,000 viewers by the fourth quarter. The Wings announced on social media last week that tickets to the game in Arlington had sold out. Clark, the first overall pick in this year's WNBA draft, will be coming to town alongside Aaliyah Boston, last year's top draft pick and unanimous Rookie of the Year. The Fever have not made the playoffs since 2016, and currently sit in the 9th spot in CBS Sports Power Rankings. The Sky, who drafted Reese with the 7th pick, ranked dead last out of the 12 WNBA teams. Reese's LSU was eliminated by Clark in this year's NCAA tournament. Reese isn't the only rookie Chicago is hoping will turn their team around. The team spent the 3rd pick on 6'7" Camila Cardozo, who led the University of South Carolina to a championship over Clark's Hawkeyes in April. Dawn Staley, Cardozo's coach, credited Clark as the sole reason why viewership in women's basketball has grown recently in an interview with 670 The Score last month. The championship game netted 18.9 million viewers per ESPN, the most viewed college basketball game ever on the network. She's the greatest of her time. I want women's basketball to grow, and I'm not too shy about saying why it grows. She's made it grow over the past 2 years, Staley said in the interview. The WNBA preseason will continue until next Friday, with the regular season tip-off on May 14th. When a generational talent comes into the limelight, what makes them great? Is it their individual talent that propels them into stardom? Or is it a player of equal and/or almost equal talent challenging them to be better? The constant push and pull certainly helps. In the case of Caitlin Clark, fans perceive her arch-nemesis to be fellow WNBA star Angel Reese. But one analyst asks, what would the scenario be like if they played at different times? See Arat Sohi on The Ringer's WNBA show talks to Van Lathan about this rivalry. While she respects it and even makes a Magic Johnson/Larry Bird comparison, Sohi points out, it is such a disservice to Angel Reese that every conversation around her is in comparison to Caitlin Clark. Because now you have this elite rebounder, this elite defensive player, Chicago were incredible defensively every time she was on the court, who has a ton of potential in her own right. Expand article logo continue reading. Indeed, with the league's leader in rebounds per game of 13.1 with 13.2 ppg, Reese did wonders for the Sky. Her dog mentality in the paint was something that gave her opponents a chill as she kept fighting for the ball. Adding the 3rd overall pick Camila Cardozo only helped the Windy City franchise become one of the most touted teams in the league for their work on the glass. They even had the fourth best second chance points per game, 11.2, and third best record for points in the paint per game, 40.3, in the WNBA. Indeed, a lot to do with how Reese fought in the restricted area. Then she gets to the crux of the matter, and if she wasn't going up this generational rookie that is changing everything, she would have been Rookie of the Year. But because everything is through the lens of Caitlin, we focus a lot more on the flaws. The Caitlin Clark effect is a popular phenomenon, and while Sohi agrees that respect should be given where it's due, a single athlete's talents shouldn't influence our judgment of the rest. With the generational talent and the Chi-Town Barbies' rookie seasons over, the conversation will shift to the next generation as and when they make their debuts. And the most prominent names are going to be Paige Bueckers and Juju Watkins, NCAA's current #1 pair of rivals. I think Paige is gonna come into the league and it's gonna happen to her, so he points out. In a later segment of the podcast, Van Lathan then asks what it is that keeps Reese and Clark constantly in the headlines. We know that the ring finger taunt from the former LSU player to the Iowa star was the beginning of the spotlight being shown on them. But Lathan also thinks, Angel and all of her flashiness, Angel and all of her brashness, Angel and all of her hip-hop bravado against Caitlin Clark, who people view as America's golden girl. But the next generation is yet to recreate that magic. If Angel can be a relevant enough player, it will kind of always be about that, because as great as Juju is, as great as Paige is, they have yet to demonstrate that you have that extra thing that you can't teach, that makes people care, and both Angel and Caitlin have that, continues the analyst. But as thrilling as this rivalry is to watch, the question to be asked is whether it was a single women's college basketball moment that catapulted the sport into the limelight. It was a heartbreaking loss for the Hawkeyes at the 2023 tournament to the LSU Tigers. Angel Reese perhaps added more salt to the wound by pointing to her ring finger as a taunt to Caitlin Clark, that she was winning this and doing the "you can't see me" gesture of John Cena. But even before that point, the game had recorded 9.9 million viewers. The number skyrocketed to 19 million when Iowa played South Carolina next year. The Hawkeyes lost both games, but the number was 4 million more than the NCAA men's final. It's been the same in the W with both players, but CC has had just that much of an upper hand. And Andrew Marchand and Scott Docterman looked into the numbers before a rivalry existed in a recent piece for The Athletic. Going to her initial 2 years, the article points out how Clark's games as a freshman on the Big Ten Network had about 30% more viewers than other games. By the next year, it was 98%, and the Caitlin Clark effect was already well in place. So it's well and clear that the Indiana rookie has been a star in her own right even before the world knew of her. But perhaps what Sirat Sohi wants to point out is not to look at Angel Reese through the lens of Caitlin Clark, but also as a talented player in her own right.